Okay, so we're going to look at how to change a distributor cap and a rotor on an engine. We're going to be using this engine on a stand just because it's easier to see and to get in here and actually work. So the first step you want to do is you want to take a look at your engine, and you're going to write down on here, you got a picture here in your packet of how the engine looks. So this is sitting the same way that it is on the stand, and so we know that it's a 4-cylinder engine, and just for the sake of argument, now this is not the correct firing order, but to put everything back together when we number it, we just got to make sure that we understand how the numbering order works on our engine for our purposes, okay? Because really the engine firing order is probably 1 3 2 4 or 1 3 4 2, not necessarily straight in a line, okay? So we're going to mark down which ones we're calling number 1 and which one we're calling number 4. Okay, then we need to look at our distributor up here and figure out, and once again, for our sake, it really doesn't matter what we call them as long as we label them and stick to it. So using this down one here as number 1, and actually this is marked as number 1 on the cap itself. So we're going to use that as number 1. So what I've done is I've cut off some small pieces of tape here that I'm then going to write number 1 on, and so forth. So there's number 1, there's number 2. And the real trick here is you want to make sure that after you take these off, you know exactly where they go back on, because if you get them out of order, the car won't run. So there's 3 and number 4. Okay. Make sure you can actually see that. Okay. Now that we have these marked, we can go ahead and remove them from the distributor cap, being careful to pull from the boot, not from the wire. Aha, that's not good. This is why we have to replace this cap. You can see it was actually broken. Okay, so then we take off number 3 and number 4, and we can just leave them sitting here for now. Now, this one's held on by 2 screws. If you look way down here, you can see there's a screw down here on this side, and there's also a screw just like it on the other side. So we're going to take out these 2 screws. One. There's 2, and our distributor cap should come right off. Okay. So what you're looking for here is any damage that you notice around the top, if it's cracked or chipped or anything like that. In this case, this actually broke off when we pulled it apart, so that's definitely a huge problem. If you look, though, down inside here, what you're going to notice is that the little caps inside are like scarred black, and as that builds up over time, that's going to cause your car to misfire or use extra gas. So this is a good reason why we want to replace this. Alright, looking back in here now, we also have our rotor that's on here, and this simply lifts straight off. Sometimes they're held on by a set screw, which would be located down on the stem, but this one simply was a pull. And this is the part right here that then goes past inside the distributor cap and sends our spark from one spark plug to the other. So this part also needs to be replaced at the same time you're replacing the cap. So if you look in here, this is a control module, right? Electronic ignition control module right here. So this is what actually took the place of points in the 70s cars, and in the 80s vehicles they came out with one like this. So it takes the place of points. Okay, now I'm going to go get the new cap and we'll compare it to the old one. Okay, so now I have our new cap here, and I'm going to compare it just in its general shape to the old cap to make sure it looks the same. You can see on this side we have this little spot that sticks out, same as this one, okay, with our screw. And if we turn it around and look at the other side, you can see it looks the same as well. Okay, it's got a wide spot on this side that helps it go down. Now this one, both of these are actually marked. That one had the number 1 on top. This one has the number 1 in the same spot. So that's also a good indicator that this side faces down. So I've got that other piece out that was stuck in the spark plug that broke off of here, so you can actually see better the scoring that's going on here. This black stuff on the end is from the electricity arcing back and forth between the two, and that's the reason why you actually have to replace them. And we can compare our 2 rotors to each other. Okay, slightly different in appearance, but the same. They'll work exactly the same way. You can see the new one's nice and shiny compared to the old one, which has been worn out and is all scarred by the arcing of the spark plug wires. So to put it back together, we're going to start off by putting our rotor in first. You notice on the rotor here, there's a cutout on this silver piece right here. That has to line up with the inside in here of that little cutout. So basically, if you can't see it to put it back on, if you spin it around, at some point it will lock into place. It kind of pushes down on there, and that's all it does. Then I get our new distributor. Once again, I'm using the 1 as a symbol for down. But you can tell right away, you got this wide spot on this side that sticks out. It matches the wide spot right here on my distributor cap. So I'm going to put that in there, line it up, you feel it set into place, and then we're simply going to start our screws. Get one started, and then go over and check the other side. Okay, those both started really easily. You shouldn't have to force anything. We're going to screw that side down. Don't over tighten these. These are only made out of a kind of a cheap plastic, and if you over tighten them, you'll break your new one before you even get a chance to start the engine up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this to the drawing that we made on the last one. So once again, here's our picture of our old one. We've got our drawing starting with 1 on the bottom, going around clockwise, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to find our wires again, and we'll reattach them in the same order. So 1 goes down here on the bottom, 2 is next, followed by 3, and finally wire number 4. So now that we have them all back in order, I'm going to take off my little pieces of tape because we don't want to leave anything else under the hood that's not absolutely necessary. And if we were doing this on a real car, now would be the time when we could start it up and make sure that it's running correctly. So you notice now that we have our 4 wires back in place, this middle one has been vacant the whole time we've been doing this job. This middle one is actually a different type of wire that goes to the coil of the car. Because this one's on the stand, the coil was actually located on the fender of this car, so this wire would have actually gone in a different direction and gone off and hooked to the coil. This one sends the spark in, and then the rotor distributes it around to the other 4. So for now, because I don't have the coil on this engine, we're going to leave that one blank.